Hey there. I know you are interested in Gen Z, so that's exactly who we're talking about today.
Sounds
We're
good.
going deep into this research to unpack what makes them tick,
Yeah.
whether you're prepping for that big meeting or just satisfying your curiosity.
Yeah,
Get ready for some aha moments.
definitely.
Because Gen Z is way more than just TikTok and avocado toast.
It's true. There's a lot more to them than meets the eye.
Yeah.
And what's so fascinating is that even pinning down who they are is, it's a bit of a puzzle.
Yeah.
This research outlines birth years from 1995 to 2012,
Okay.
but even that range varies depending on the source.
Right. It's like trying to define the edges of a cloud.
Exactly, yeah.
But I did get a chuckle out of some of the names they're trying out, though.
Oh, yeah.
Zoomers, iGen, even Homelanders.
Mm.
It's like someone is trying to make a superhero team out of them.
Well, maybe there's some truth to that. Think about the world they were born into,
Yeah.
Constant connectivity, information at their fingertips. They're true digital natives.
Right.
Unlike millennials who remember dial-up and landlines, this generation has grown up with the internet as like the background hum of their lives.
It really is.
Yeah.
And speaking of background hum, let's talk about the events that have shaped their worldview.
Okay. Yeah.
The research you provided really highlights how much they've witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
The Great Recession, the COVID-19 pandemic, social media's rise, school shootings, climate change anxieties. It's a lot for anyone to process, let alone a generation coming of age.
Yeah, and that's what I find so intriguing about Gen Z. It's almost a paradox.
Okay.
On one hand, they've seen so much instability that they're incredibly pragmatic, but on the other hand, they haven't lost their idealism.
Right.
They want to fix the world, but they're also realistic about the challenges.
Yeah, and that kind of ties into this interesting tidbit I found in the data. 75% of Gen Z actively participate in online communities dedicated to social causes. That's huge.
Wow,
And
yeah.
it shows how much they're invested in making a difference.
Absolutely, and that dedication to causes speaks to a core value of Gen Z authenticity.
Okay.
Your research actually highlights how they crave genuine connections and are passionate about social responsibility. They're not just following trends, they're seeking out communities and information that align with their values.
That really flips the script on the stereotype of them being glued to their phones for superficial reasons.
Right.
It's not just about selfies and likes, it's about connecting with like-minded individuals and finding their tribe.
Exactly. It's like they're saying, I'm unique, you're unique, and together we can make a difference. And that drive for authenticity extends to everything, from their personal relationships to their expectations of the workplace.
Speaking of the workplace, the research you shared paints a clear picture. Gen Z is not just looking for a job, they're looking for a purpose.
Yeah.
Did you see that statistic about how 80% of them want their work to align with their personal values?
I did.
That's a huge shift from previous generations.
It is, and it makes sense considering the economic uncertainty they've witnessed.
Right.
They're not just climbing the corporate ladder. They're seeking stability, flexibility, and work that feels meaningful.
Yeah.
And it's not just about fluffy ideals. They're also incredibly ambitious and driven. They want to make a difference, but they also want to thrive.
I like that. That tension between ambition and work-life balance is fascinating,
Yeah.
especially when you consider the data on their mental health. The research you provided actually pointed out that Gen Z is the most open generation when it comes to discussing mental well-being, setting boundaries, and prioritizing self-care.
Which is incredibly important considering the constant digital bombardment they face.
Yeah.
Think about it. They've grown up with FOMO, cyberbullying, and curated perfection on social media.
Oh, yeah.
It's no wonder they're pushing for a healthier relationship with technology and a more balanced approach to life.
That's a really good point. It's like they're trying to redefine what success looks like for their generation.
And that redefinition is impacting everything from the workplace to relationships. Speaking of which, did you see the section in the research on how Gen Z approaches dating?
I did it.
They're craving authentic connections and are skeptical of superficial swiping culture.
Yeah, I saw that. They're prioritizing organic connections and shared values over fleeting online interactions.
Yeah.
And honestly, I can't say I blame them.
Me neither. It seems they're looking for something deeper, a connection that goes beyond curated profiles and perfectly filtered photos.
Yeah.
They're craving realness, vulnerability, and genuine connection in a world that often feels increasingly superficial.
It's almost like a counterculture movement within a digital world.
It is. They're embracing authenticity, vulnerability, and realness, and that's impacting everything from how they consume media to their expectations of brands and institutions.
Okay, so we've established that Gen Z is digitally fluent, values-driven, and pushing for authenticity in all areas of life.
Mm.
But how are they using those digital skills in the real world? Because the research you provided really dives deep into their consumer habits, and let me tell you, this is where things get interesting.
Right, buckle up, because we're about to explore the world of Gen Z as consumers. And trust me, brands need to pay attention because this generation is rewriting the rules of the game.
Absolutely. They're mobile-first shoppers, social media savvy, and demanding transparency and ethical practices from the companies they support. They're not falling for flashy marketing or empty promises.
They're savvy, informed, and know how to wield their purchasing power. They're not just buying products, they're investing in brands that align with their values.
Hmm.
And that's a powerful force that businesses can't ignore.
It's mind-blowing to think about the ripple effect of their choices.
Yeah.
They're not just buying a product, they're casting a vote for the kind of world they want to see.
Precisely. And that impact extends far beyond the marketplace. We've touched on how they're changing the workplace, but the data you provided really paints a vivid picture of how Gen Z is poised to reshape entire industries.
I was particularly struck by the section on their leadership style.
Oh, yeah.
They're all about collaboration, transparency, and flat hierarchies. It's like they're throwing the old corporate rule book out the window.
And good riddance, some might say. Their comfort with technology and their hunger for continuous learning are pushing companies to embrace innovation and agility. Did you see that 65% of Gen Z respondents said they would leave a job if it didn't offer opportunities for professional development?
Wow, I hadn't caught that exact number, but it doesn't surprise me. They're not just clocking in and out. They're invested in their growth and want to contribute meaningfully.
It's almost like they're viewing their careers as a continuous learning journey rather than a linear climb up the corporate ladder. And this attitude is going to force companies to adapt or risk losing out on top talent.
It makes you wonder what the future of work will look like, right? Will traditional office structures even exist in a decade or two?
It's a question worth pondering. And their impact extends beyond the boardroom and into the political arena. This generation is coming of age in a time of immense political division and social unrest. Yet they're not shying away from engaging in these important conversations.
Yeah, one of the most common critiques I hear about Gen Z is that they're all talk and no action. But the research you provided actually contradicts that notion. They're not just posting about causes online, they're showing up in real life to demand change.
Exactly. They're organizing protests, volunteering for campaigns, and making their voices heard through various forms of digital activism. And as their voting power grows, they have the potential to reshape the political landscape in profound ways.
It's almost like they're saying, we're not waiting for permission to create the future we want.
And that future is one that embraces diversity, inclusivity, and social justice. Did you see the statistic that over 70% of Gen Z believe that climate change is a serious threat? That's a powerful indication of the issues they prioritize.
That's a huge number. And it really highlights their commitment to tackling the challenges that previous generations have often ignored or downplayed.
It's clear they're not content with inheriting a broken world. They're demanding better from their leaders, from institutions, and from each other.
And it's not just about politics and activism, it's about culture as a whole. The research you provided really emphasizes how Gen Z is challenging traditional norms and creating a world that's more authentic, inclusive, and mental health aware.
They're normalizing conversations about mental well-being, pushing for diverse representation in media, and demanding that brands reflect their values. They're rewriting the rules of engagement, and it's fascinating to witness.
It's like they're saying, we're not going to fit into your outdated mold, we're going to create our own.
And they're doing it with this incredible sense of fearlessness and optimism. They're not afraid to challenge the status quo, and they're not letting cynicism or negativity hold them back.
Their digital fluency is also blurring the lines between online and offline communities. They're creating new forms of social interaction and cultural expression that are both fascinating and rapidly evolving.
It makes you wonder what the future holds, doesn't it? We've explored how Gen Z is shaping the workplace, the consumer landscape, politics, and even culture itself. But what about their impact on the digital world itself? The very tools and platforms that have shaped them are now being shaped by them in return.
That's such a thought-provoking point. We've talked about how they're demanding more authenticity and transparency from brands, But what about their demands on social media platforms? What kind of impact are they having on the way we consume information, connect with each other, and navigate the digital world?
It's fascinating to consider. They're pushing for greater privacy controls, demanding that platforms take responsibility for harmful content, and seeking out spaces that prioritize meaningful connection over superficial engagement.
It's almost like they're saying, we built this digital world and now we're going to make it better.
And they have the power to do so. Their digital fluency and their collective voice are shaping the evolution of the internet in ways that we're only just beginning to understand.
It's incredible to think about the power they wield, not just as consumers, but as architects of the digital landscape. It really makes you realize that understanding Gen Z isn't just about demographics. It's about understanding the future.
Absolutely. And that's what makes this deep dive into the research you provided so valuable.
Yeah.
It's not just about surface level observations, it's about unpacking the deeper implications of their values, behaviors, and aspirations.
You know, at the beginning of this deep dive, I mentioned that Gen Z is way more than just TikTok and avocado toast. And after exploring all this data, I think it's safe to say I underestimated just how much more there is to them.
I agree. They're complex, multifaceted, and challenging many of the assumptions we've held about younger generations.
Right.
And that's what makes them so fascinating to study.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring it back to you, the listener. We've covered a lot of ground, from their digital fluency and core values to their impact on the workplace, consumerism, politics, and culture. But what does it all mean for you?
That's the key question, isn't it? How can you take these insights and apply them to your own life, your work, or your understanding of the world around you?
For example, if you're in marketing, you can't just rely on the same old tactics to reach this generation.
Right.
They're immune to traditional advertising and demand authenticity and transparency from the brands they engage with.
Exactly. And if you're a manager, you need to understand their unique motivations and expectations. They're not just looking for a paycheck. They're seeking purpose, flexibility, and opportunities for growth.
It's about adapting your approach to meet their needs, not expecting them to conform to outdated models.
And beyond professional context, understanding Gen Z can help us all navigate the rapidly changing world around us.
Huh.
Their values are shaping societal norms and influencing everything from how we communicate to how we consume information.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to society, challenging us to be more authentic, inclusive, and mindful.
And whether we agree with all of their viewpoints or not, there's no denying that they're a force to be reckoned with.
So I want to leave you with a final thought. We've talked about how Gen Z is shaping the world, but how will the world shape them in return? As they face new challenges, navigate economic uncertainty, and grapple with the complexities of a globalized world, how will their values and perspectives evolve?
It's a question that only time will answer. But one thing is certain. Gen Z is a generation full of potential, passion, and a deep desire to make a positive impact. And I, for one, am excited to see what they accomplish.
Me too. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you learned something new and gained a deeper understanding of the generation that's shaping our future. And as always, we'd love to hear your thoughts. What surprised you? What questions do you still have? Share your insights with us, and let's continue the conversation. Until next time.